Earth Day. We're here to learn something about earthworms. Earth's friendliest creatures, the ones that keep everything going the way it's supposed to be going. They have a body similar to the insides of a bird, believe it or not. They have a mouth and they have an anus. And in between, they have a peristomium, which is like a lip that actually goes out and catches food and brings it in. They have a teeny tiny brain, which is basically two ganglions, two nerves overlapping. They have a pharynx, which we do too. Then we go all the way down here to the fun part. They have a crop and a gizzard, just like a bird. They don't have a stomach, just like a bird. Everything goes through there. They have 5 aortic arches. They don't have 5 hearts. They don't have a real heart. They have 5 aortic arches. The gizzard works like this. Say you got sand in your hand and you're doing this. It's muscle, muscle, muscle. It's grinding things up. Before it gets in there, the crop actually adds enzymes to it to break things down. After that, it goes into the intestine, and everything that the earthworm needs then is taken out for the earthworm. What isn't needed comes out the back end, but it's perfect. There's no bad bacteria in it. They even eat that nasty bad E. coli. Let's talk about what we feed our worms. We feed our worms anything that used to grow that wasn't an animal or part of an animal. So in this right now, you might see that I've got all kinds of weird things in here. I do have banana peels and I do have citrus peels. Some people say that that's not good, but I've never had a problem with that. I have coffee filters with coffee still in them. I have dandelions in here that I boiled because I needed them for something else. I have pieces of lettuce. I have weeds. I have all kinds of things. As long as you put weeds in without the seed head, the worms will eat them. That's their job. So all of these things are the things that I eat, and I put the leftovers in there. Apple cores, anything you can think of that you don't eat because people just don't eat certain things, you want to save for the worms. Remember, no meat, no dairy. The only thing from an animal that I use a lot of are eggshells. So ground up eggshells have a lot of calcium for the worms, calcium for the plants that you're going to use them with, and they also provide grit for that little gizzard that's in that little worm. So our next step is to go ahead and make a smoothie for our worms. I like smoothies, you like smoothies, worms like smoothies. That's all the food that we don't normally eat, put into a blender with some water and some crushed eggshells, turn it on. This is what we'll feed our worms. Next, I'm going to show you how to make a worm band, the way I do it. There's many ways to make a worm band, there's many ways to raise worms, but I'll show you how I'm going to do it. These are the things that I use. I use old storage containers, I use buckets that have things in them, I have food from the kitchen, I have all of these things. So I'm going to show you how I do this. Here's what I would use for the bottom. I also have some old PVC that I put together that will be to lift the top from the bottom. You can also use 2 2x4s set on their edges. Next, I would be putting in another container, but notice it's got all kinds of holes in it. The reason for that is you want oxygen to be going around through there, you want the drainage to go through into the bottom. The next thing I put in there is going to be chopped up cardboard and paper. So I run it through a shredder, and in addition to having that in there, I also have all the droppings from the trees for all the little pollen things that they gave out. So I will dump those in. Everything has been wet, and I just swish it around like so. That's all I do to get started. Next, what I'm going to do is I am going to get over here and I'm going to grab my food. The food that I'm going to put in is just everything that I put in that smoothie early, and now that smoothie's in here. And in addition to the smoothie, I use something called core also. Core I'm not doing this right, am I? Core is chopped up coconut husks. I'm going to sprinkle that in to help bring down the moisture a little bit. And in addition to that, I'm going to put 1 scoop of eggshells in it. Crushed eggshells I also run through my blender. So I have those over here. Because that helps that little gizzard inside them grind up their food. Then I'm going to mix it up. And just leave it like so. And like you'll see in this one over here that's already finished, I put a t-shirt on top of it. That wet t-shirt makes sure that mama fruit flies aren't going to be bothering you. It's very important for that. So here's what it looks like when the worms are finished doing their thing. All those lovely little worms in there made all this vermicompost. This is the best stuff you can feed your plants. And you don't sprinkle it on like chemicals. They like a good chunk of it. I put this in with all of my starts. I put it in with all of my plantings. This is what feeds them. Now you might be wondering, what do we do with all the castings that the worms make? Do I just throw my worms and castings into the garden? No, my worms are my workers. So what I do is I separate the worms from the castings. Normally I would take this whole big bin right here, flip it up on top of the table, separate it out. I'm going to show you a mini version of what I do. I will take a handful of worms and castings. I'm going to put it right there. Notice it's in the sun, and of course, where do the worms go when this is in the sun? They go down. That's because they know the sun is not good for them. They can die. So I'm going to separate it out. Oh, here's a good little worm here. I will put it over here. I'll mix it around. There's another worm. I'll put it over here. Put this one there. Oh, look, there's a teeny tiny baby worm. I'm going to keep doing this until there are no worms left in here. And I have to kind of keep looking for it. And look, there's some more little worms in there. So I just keep taking the worms out from the castings. Do I have to get every single one? No, but the more worms I pull out of there, the more I have to start my next bin. And that's the idea, is to get them out of there so that they're okay. Notice they're in the shade. And here's some more. Here's some more. So the idea is when you're finished, oh, and if there's anything that hasn't decomposed yet, I throw that in with the worms also. Now this bin really isn't ready to be completely decommissioned, so I'm just showing you this as a demonstration. Notice all those little worms though. They are juicy and happy looking. All right, so that's pretty much clear of worms. Oh, I should tell you that sometimes you get something called a potworm. That's these little bitty white worms. If you have too many of them, that means it's too wet and you need to add something dry to it, like maybe core or newspaper or something that'll absorb some of that. Not a lot, but you want to make sure that you're not too wet. Otherwise, you've got other critters that will outcompete the worms. And so at this point, oops, I think I've got all my worms out. Now you may be wondering, this is the stuff that I wind up putting in with my plants when I plant them. Or I mix this in with my potting soil to give them a little bit extra boost. This is the stuff that worms make that plants actually really love. And notice while I'm doing this, there's no fruit flies. The real trick is to get that smoothie made and put it in there. Okay, next we'll be showing you about what to do with this now that we're finished with it. Okay, so you're probably wondering what I do with all those castings. Well, I feed my plants with them when I'm transplanting them. So here's one of those little pots that you can grow things in. I generally try to take it apart a little bit so that the plant doesn't have to work so hard to get out of it, because you can see it's just now starting to come up. Also, a lot of times they will get moldy, and who wants mold with your things when they're trying to come up? Take it all off, peel it off. Actually, you can compost it. Then I'll go ahead and I'll dig a hole. See how big that is? I'm going to dig a hole. And then I'm going to take some of those castings that we just pulled out, and I'm going to sprinkle those in. Give it a good sprinkle in there. And I'm going to put it down in there. And then I'm going to work around it, put this all around it. I'm going to pack it in like I normally would with any transplant. Push it down in. Not squish it too tight. And then I'll top dress it. I'll put a little bit more on top of it. cover it because it wants that sunlight now. And then I just let it grow. That's what that is. This is the best food for that little plant that you could possibly give it. So maybe we can come back in a few months and collect beans. That'd be neat. Oh, and by the way, here's something that I should tell you. You probably don't want to be putting any tomato seeds in with your worm castings. Do not feed your worms anything that has to do with tomato seeds. Other seeds will sprout early on and you can pull them out and refeed them. Tomato seeds, on the other hand, like it warmer, so they don't start coming up until later. And you can use your vermicomposting and all kinds of things. Here's what happens. If you put tomato seeds or anything with tomato seeds in your vermicompost and you use it, this is what you get, a nice bouquet of tomato plants that are all squished together. And there's hardly any way you can pull them apart. And of course you don't know which one they are. So if you're making tomato sauce, tomato paste, those things, do not put the stuff that has the seeds in your worm bin. Because fortunately for us, worms don't kill seeds. That's not their job. And these little seeds will just come right up wherever you put them. So no tomato seeds in your vermicompost if you don't want to have a bunch of tomatoes like this coming up everywhere. Here's another little tip I might want to give you. So another thing you can do with your vermicompost, you can mix it with about equal parts of shredded paper and cardboard along with vermicompost. Mix it in there like so. Now I'm going to put it all in, and you add water to it. You mix it all up. And then you pack it around your plants. Now the reason for that is, as it breaks down, it's feeding the plants, but it's also keeping your plants weed-free. So there's no weeds around your plants then. There's no competition for them. So these garlics were planted in October, and as you can see, some of the paper's already been eaten up by the microbes and by the worms. So all of that good stuff's going to go into the ground and feed your plants, but it's also going to keep weeds in check. So you're not out there constantly picking weeds. So there's another thing that you could be doing with your vermicompost. And one more thing, in fact, the most important thing. This is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. And so here we are on this planet, a planet where we can only live, no one else has been here, we're the only ones, and we can't go anywhere and actually survive. Maybe someday in the far future, but for right now, everyone, this is our home, this is our planet, this is the one we have to take care of. We don't need to synthesize anything. We've got everything right here if we just open our eyes, open our hearts, and share what nature has given to us already. Follow in nature's footsteps. Follow how she's taught us. Make sure that we are not doing harm to the earth. Make sure that we are being plentiful, and make sure that we are sharing with each other what we learn. And above all, let's make sure that we are safe on this planet. And thank you for watching, and happy Earth Day.